going to head downstream to Tower Pier. And I just have to, at this point, do a quick safety announcement to tell you about life-saving equipment that we have on board. It's not done to alarm you in any way, but we have to tell you where this stuff is. So if you just pay attention, we have life jackets stored in the cupboards at the front here where I'm sitting. They're £5 each. Only joking. We've also got life jackets in the white cupboards at the back there. We have life belts and life rafts. These all float free automatically or can be launched by a crew member. We have a full first aid kit on board. Emergency exits, well, we've got the roof open today, so that's nice and easy. We're in constant radio contact with the emergency services and also all the other boats that you see travelling on the Thames today. So you're in quite safe hands. I've worked on the Thames now since 1984. Graham is steering the boat since 1884. Sorry, Graham. Okay, so you're in safe hands now. So on our way downstream to the Tower of London, we pass through probably the most interesting part of London. In fact, London wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for the Thames. So to try and make the journey more enjoyable, I'll point these places out as we go past. But I would stress that I'm not an official guide, I'm a crew member, so you have to bear with me. I can only do it in the one language. Don't do it in that very well, so as I say, you have to bear with me, and so we'll set off. So listen to that. That is a sound signal. 4 blasts followed by 1 blast means that we're going to turn the boat round to starboard, and that warns all the other boats that we're turning this boat round to starboard, to the right. So as we turn the boat round, or ahead of us at the moment, we have the Royal Palace of Westminster, the Houses of Parliament. The far end of the building is the Victoria Tower, and that's where they keep all the ballot papers after each general election, kept there for 1 year and 1 day before they're destroyed. And this end of the building is what's now called the Elizabeth Tower, which it just had its name changed for the Diamond Jubilee. It's now called the Elizabeth Tower, but it was originally called the St Stephen's Clock and Clock Tower, better known as Big Ben. Actually, Big Ben is just the name of the bell that chimes the hour. So we have the Westminster chimes, which chime every 15 minutes, and then on the hour we have Big Ben, which chimes. So there you go, that's the Royal Palace of Westminster off to our left there. Probably the most beautiful building on the banks of the River Thames. Okay, so we're turning round now, and ahead of us we've got this white building with the 4 raised green roofs, and that is the Ministry of Defence. That used to be the Air Ministry, and that's why on the embankment wall in front of the building here we have the column with the golden eagle on top. So there you go. On our right hand side now we have the London Eye. Some of you may have already been on this today. If you haven't, I can thoroughly recommend going on there. I've actually been on there myself. Took my wife and children on there last year, and it's fantastic, especially on a lovely clear day like today. You can see for miles. It's quite expensive to go on there. I think it's about £18 or £19, something like that for an adult ticket. But you are on there for half an hour. The views from the top are absolutely amazing, and you might get over there, there's a great big queue, but don't worry about that because the queues go down very quickly, because each one of the pods, and there's 32 of them, each one of those pods takes 25 people, so the queue does go down very, very quickly. You can actually hire a pod for yourself if you want it now, and they perform marriages on there on the London Eye, so you can actually get married on there if you wish. So you hire your pod, get your vicar and your wife or potential husband, and get on at the bottom. On the way up, the vicar does the service, and then when you get to the top of the London Eye, they stop it just for a couple of minutes while you say your vows, and then you say I do, and then they start it up again, and it's all downhill from there. Right, over to our left hand side now, we've got a couple of old ships moored up. The dark blue ship with the blue, red and white funnel, that's the Tattershall Castle. Sorry about that, it's a bit loud this. Tattershall Castle, she's an old Humber ferry, used to be an old side paddle wheeler. She's permanently moored in now, she's a bar and restaurant. And next door we have RS Hispaniola. RS stands for restaurant ship. Obviously, there you go. That's an old Scottish ferry boat, used to be around the islands of Scotland, but she's permanently moored here as a restaurant now. Okay, we come through the Charing Cross Railway Bridge now with the Diamond Jubilee footbridges, sorry, the Golden Jubilee footbridges either side. And as we come through the bridge, over on our right hand side we have the Royal Festival Concert Hall. We've got the Queen Elizabeth Hall, the Purcell Rooms, the Hayward Art Gallery, the National Theatres, the National Film Theatre. Also there's some nice a little market going on over there at the moment, and there's a little festival over there at the moment, some restaurants and bars, and this is a really nice vibrant area of London to visit later on if you've got time. It's called the South Bank, an area of arts, music and entertainment, the South Bank over on the right. It's worth a visit if you've got time later on, just to have a walk along. You get all the street entertainers and all sorts going on over there, so that's good fun. On the embankment wall on the left here we've got this large stone column, and that's one of our oldest national monuments. It's called Cleopatra's Needle. It was carved out over 3,000 years ago, but it was donated to this country about 150 years ago from the Egyptians to commemorate Nelson's victory over Napoleon at the Battle of the River Nile. We're about to go through Waterloo Bridge now. Waterloo Bridge was opened in 1945. And it was built throughout war years, throughout the Second World War. And because it was built during war years, many of our men was away fighting in the armed services at that time. So the ladies at the time stayed at home, did any construction work needed. And one of their achievements was the building of the longest road bridge to span the River Thames, Waterloo Bridge, built by ladies, and the longest bridge to span the Thames for many, many years until they built the Dartford crossing. There you go. Affectionately known on the Thames as the Ladies' Bridge. As we come through Waterloo Bridge, look ahead and to the left, and you've got there a small white ship with a canopy on the roof, flying a blue flag above. And believe it or not, this used to be our royal barge. This was a vessel that the royal family used to use when they travelled on the Thames. They stopped using it in the late 1960s. And since then it's been owned by several different private companies. It's permanently moored here now, and it's a very exclusive restaurant. In fact, so exclusive that you never see anyone on there. There you go. A bit tatty these days, but she was a very elegant ship in her day, the old St Catherine. Further down on the left hand side we've got a white ship there, it's called the Wellington, and she's a former sloop from the New Zealand Navy, permanently moored here now, and she belongs to the Honourable Company of Master Mariners. You have to have been the captain of a ship at sea to be eligible to join that company. Now look behind the ship, and just over the back of the ship there you can see the top of a stone archway. You'll get a better view as we get down in line with it, and this is called Temple Arch and Temple Gate, and it marks a boundary line between two cities. Back to our left hand side we have the city of Westminster, which we're now leaving, and ahead and to our left hand side now we have the ancient Roman city of Londinium, London, which is our capital city. And one of the smallest capital cities in the world. It's just 1 square mile. Finishes at Tower Bridge. So today we're going to travel right down one side of the city. If you look ahead and to our left now, dominating the London skyline we have the dome of St Paul's Cathedral. And St Paul's Cathedral is the masterpiece of that brilliant architect Sir Christopher Wren. It took 35 years to build, from 1675 right through until 1710. And there's quite a few famous people buried in St Paul's Cathedral. The Duke of Wellington, the Iron Duke, Alexander Fleming, Florence Nightingale is in there. Probably the most famous person to be buried in there is the architect himself, Sir Christopher Wren. But Sir Christopher Wren's tomb is just a very simple affair. It's just a stone plaque with an inscription in Latin, and when it's translated it says, "Reader, if you seek his monument, look about you." And that's quite a fitting tribute. There's Wren's monument, St Paul's Cathedral. And it doesn't matter where you go in London, you'll always come across one of Wren's churches or buildings or monuments, because Sir Christopher Wren was commissioned to rebuild all the churches after the Great Fire of London of 1666. And he built 52 churches and monuments in London alone. He also built several other buildings around the country. He was a famous astronomer, he was a mathematician, famous mathematician, and he studied law. He's quite a remarkable man. He certainly managed to cram quite a lot of work into his 91 years. And 91, you remember, when the average age at that time was about 45, 46. Sir Christopher Wren lived till 91, so he was quite a remarkable man. And as we get through these bridges, if you look on the London skyline, to the left and the right of St Paul's Cathedral, the dome there, you'll see all the little church spires sticking up, all built by Wren. As I say, he built them all after the Great Fire. After the Great Fire of London, if you can just imagine, over on the left-hand side here, there was nothing. Everything was burnt to the ground for quite a long way. So there you go. But this is his masterpiece, St Paul's, and it's a fantastic building. If you ever get a chance to go and have a look in St Paul's, I can thoroughly recommend it. It's quite big. If you look to the left of the dome, just behind that green roof there, you'll see the two spires of the front entrance of St Paul's. It also goes to the right of the dome as well, so it's quite a large building, and as I say, it's open to the public. If you look back to our left there, you can see there's a church spire covered in scaffolding above the bridge. Back to our left there. Unfortunately, you can't see it too well because the scaffolding's masking it at the moment, but that is known as the Wedding Cake Church. It's one of Wren's. His daughter was actually married in that church, and she had a wedding cake made to the design of that spire, and it goes up in tiers, and that's why now when you have a wedding cake, it goes up in tiers, and it all comes from St Bride's Church in Fleet Street. It's one of the nicer churches that Wren built. Here we go, get a nice view of the side entrance of St Paul's on the left hand side, as where the bridge goes through the buildings there. You can see the Paternoster stairs and the side entrance of St Paul's there. Over on our right hand side now, just slightly ahead and to our right, we've got this white building with the thatched roof, and that is the new Shakespeare's Globe Playhouse Theatre. This is where the original Globe Playhouse Theatre stood in Southwark, over on our right, a little bit further downstream actually, but that got burnt down in the early 17th century. But in the early 1980s, Sam Wanamaker, the American film actor and director, he had a fantastic idea of rebuilding Shakespeare's Globe back in Southwark. And this area of Southwark on our right hand side, this was like the red light area of Elizabethan London. It was over here that they had the bull baiting pits, bear baiting, cockfighting, and obviously the playhouses and the theatres, and the houses of ill repute, all known as the Stews of Southwark because of the doubtful reputation. A very dodgy old place Southwark was. And Shakespeare's original Globe Playhouse Theatre was just down through this bridge on the right hand side, where you see the black glass building here on our right, FT. When they was excavating to put the foundations down for this building, they found the original footings for the Globe Playhouse Theatre. Okay, so we're about to go through Southwark Bridge now, and as we get through the bridge, one of the old taverns of Southwark is still here. Ahead and to our right, you have a building in the corner of the bridge with red window frames, the Anchor Tavern of Bankside, and there's been a pub on this site, an Anchor Tavern, for almost 400 years. This was often frequented by the likes of Samuel Pepys, the diarist, Dr. Johnson, who wrote the first English dictionary, and also the Shakespearean actors all used to use this particular pub for changing rooms, because the original Globe Playhouse Theatre didn't have any changing rooms, and the actors used to get changed in the anchor. So obviously it was used frequently by William Shakespeare. Still open as a pub today, so that's worth a look. Now look here ahead and to our right hand side, you've got a gap between the buildings here, and in there you can see an old sailing ship. Now then, has anybody seen the film Pirates of the Caribbean? Yeah? It's nothing to do with that. It's actually a replica of Sir Francis Drake's ship, the Golden Hind. And Sir Francis Drake was the first Englishman to sail around the world, and he did so in a ship exactly the same as that. And in fact, the replica ship on our right here has also sailed around the world, but it's been around twice, once more than the original. There's Southwark Cathedral on the right hand side. Parts of that building date back to the early 13th century. And we're about to go through London Bridge now, and this is the 4th London Bridge to span the Thames at this site. The one before this was taken down stone by stone, and it was shipped over to America, and it now spans a man-made lake in Lake Havasu City in Arizona. As we get through London Bridge, I know ahead of us we can see Tower Bridge, but we're going to take you down much closer. You'll get a much better photograph later on, so wait with your cameras. But before we go down there, look over here to the left-hand side. You've got this gap between the buildings, and over in the background there, you've got the tall white column with the golden flaming urn on the top, and that is Sir Christopher Wren's monument to the Great Fire of London. Just past there, the blue building on the left, that's the training ground and headquarters for the London Window Cleaning Company. It's actually a solar building. They get the heating and hot water through the glass windows, the solar panels. Just past there we've got the yellow brick building with the arches in the front, and that is the old Billingsgate Fish Market. And there's been a fish market in London, a Billingsgate Fish Market in London, for over 900 years. This is where the original market was until the 1980s. They took it away, and it's down in Canary Wharf, just a little bit further downriver. Just past there, this building behind the trees, on the left, the long white building, is the Customs House. That's the headquarters for Her Majesty's Customs and Excise. So if you get caught coming into our country through the borders and you've got drugs or too much alcohol or cigarettes, that will be seized from you. You'll be thrown into prison, and they bring the contraband here and they store it in the vaults beneath that building there, and they keep it there for 1 year, and then at Christmas they have a big old party in there, so that's always good. The warship on our right here, this is HMS Belfast, and she was built in Belfast in Ireland in the Harland and Wolff shipyard in 1938. She was commissioned in 1939. Her main armament consists of 12 6-inch guns, each of which is capable of firing a shell 14 land miles. Not much by today's standards, but when she was launched, she was one of the most powerful ships in the world. She's permanently moored here now, and she is a museum ship, museum to British sea power. Okay, so ahead of us now we have Tower Bridge, and any minute now Graham is going to turn the boat side on. Okay, so we're going to get a nice view out of the open side of Tower Bridge, and by all means stand up and take a photograph, but once you have taken your photograph, if you could please get back into your seats so everybody gets a chance to take a nice photograph. There you go, that's the sound signal again to all other vessels that we're going to be turning round. This time we're turning round to port, going round to the left. Okay, 4 blasts followed by 1 blast. So here we go. Tower Bridge, known throughout the world as a symbol of London. It's a combined suspension and bascule bridge, which means the part in the centre where you see the people walking across there, the white van going across, that's 2 spans they split in the middle and they raise and lower like two giant drawbridges to allow large ships up and down through the bridge. Now then, many years ago, the River Thames, especially in this area, was one of the busiest ports in the world. And this bridge, look at that, there's a London bus going across the bridge now. But this bridge used to get opened and closed 20 or 30 times a day. But pedestrians could still cross the river whilst the bridge was in the open position by climbing up inside the towers and walking across the top walkways that you see now. That was stopped in 1911 because of too many suicides. They earned the nickname Suicide Leap. But about 15 years ago, they reopened the top walkways of Tower Bridge as a tourist attraction. So if you want to jump off there now, it'll cost you about £10. Okay, so there you go, that's Tower Bridge, and not quite as old as it looks. It's only just over 200 years old, but it was built in that style to blend in with the Tower of London, which is over here on our right hand side now. And the Tower of London was started by William the Conqueror in 1078. He built the part in the centre, the White Tower, otherwise known as the Norman Keep, and then after William the Conqueror, the tower was added to by the different reigning kings and queens throughout the years. In its time, it's been a fortress, a palace, a prison, a zoo, a royal mint. It now houses the crown jewels, guided by the famous beefeaters. It's probably most famously known as a place of torture and execution. And if you look on the river wall in front of the tower here, you can see a bricked up archway, and above that we have the words "Entry to the Traitors' Gate." Now then, many years ago, traitors, if they were found guilty, they would be tried up at the Palace of Westminster, and if they were found guilty, they would be rowed down the Thames in a waterman's skiff, taken up through the once open archway, led up onto the block at Tower Hill, and then they would have their heads surgically removed from their bodies by the form of a rusty old axe. Their heads was then dipped in tar and stuck on a spike on the approach roads to one of the old London bridges, and that would be a deterrent to any would-be traitors. So there you go, there's over 900 years of British history over on our right hand side here. The Tower of London, probably the most important building in the history of England, the Tower. And ahead of us and to the right now is Tower Pier. So if you want to go and have a look around the Tower of London, you can do so. It's open to the public. You can get off the boat here and go and have a look around. It's well worth doing. If you want to, you can get a guided tour around there. The beefeaters and the guardians of the tower, they're there to take people around and tell you all about the history and the kings and queens that have lived and died in this tower. Okay, so we're about to go alongside Tower Pier, so if you could all please find a seat just while we go alongside, we would appreciate that very much indeed. And if you are leaving us here and you have return tickets, boats leave here approximately every 20 minutes. The last boat leaving to go upstream tonight will be at 6:30. They sometimes put later boats on, so if you want to get a later boat, ask the attendants on the pier, the guys in the white shirts, or they may have blue tops on, blue jumpers on, and they will tell you the time of the last guaranteed boat going up tonight. So just to check. If you have a bus ticket, the bus stop is just the other side of the Tower of London. You get off, walk up the road and turn right, and that's where the bus stop is. Okay, so that's that. And that brings me to the end of the commentary. And as I said earlier, commentaries given aboard these boats are given by us, the crew. The company don't provide a professional commentator to do a commentary for you, so we feel it's a bit of a shame you coming on the Thames not knowing what you're looking at, so we put these commentaries together to try and make the journey more interesting or enjoyable for you. So if you feel that I've done that and you'd like to show your appreciation, you can do so as you leave the boat, because I'll be standing by the door with, there you go, our old tin bucket. And if you want to chuck a few bob in there, well then we'd be very grateful of that. Anything that we receive in that bucket goes towards research for our commentary. What we do, Graham and myself, we take that money and we have to go in all these old riverside bars and pubs and find out all about the history of the Thames for you. So if you want to help out with that, well then we'd be very grateful. Anyhow, you're under no obligation whatsoever to put in there, but enjoy the rest of your stay in London, in this country, those of you from abroad. And once again, thank you for listening to me. Thank you. Thank you very much.